What's up, Blerdies? We're back with another episode of Blerd Up, where we talk about all things movies, music, TV, and gaming, all with a blurred twist. We're your host. I'm Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
And we're back with another episode breakdown for Lovecraft Country, episode number 4, History of Violence.
Yep. I'm so ready to break this down. To be honest with you, this episode wasn't as quite as exciting as the first 3 episodes, but still exciting. And I'm just so ready to just like jump in and break down everything that happened in the episode. Yeah.
Most definitely. Now, here's the thing. So when I was watching this, I was like, okay, so what's my favorite episode so far? I can't pick because they're all in like different genres of horror or thriller or whatever you want to call it. Like every episode's had kind of like a different horror element featured. And it's just kind of like, I love it.
I know. It's great because usually, you know, we get those, and one that pops into my mind automatically is Supernatural, where we got every episode was, you know, of course, about something that is supernatural. However, in Lovecraft Country, it's like, okay, this episode you're gonna get secret societies. Next episode you're gonna get ghosts. This episode you're gonna get Indiana Jones. Next episode you're gonna be in space.
Yeah,
you know?
Basically.
Yeah, and it's just like, whoa, you're giving me everything that I want in one, but oh goodness, I need time to process it all.
Yeah, but the thing that they're doing a really good job of, the story is not disjointed in any way. It fits.
Yeah,
you know, there's no like holes, I guess you would say. And there's no moment when you're watching an episode where you're just like, that don't make sense.
Right.
You know, they're doing a really good job with this.
It fits together very well. Even though it's different things that we're seeing, it fits together very well.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes back to the comment I made in one of our earlier reviews. This is almost like an anthology with the Braithwaite story being the wraparound. You know?
Yeah.
So, definitely looking forward to jumping into the episode. But before we do that, again, thank you to everyone who's been liking and subscribing to our videos, specifically this Lovecraft Country series that we're doing. We are doing it a little bit differently than other reviewers are doing it. We're jumping in, we're breaking it down, pointing out Easter eggs, and so far you guys have been really responsive to that. So we just want to, again, thank you for watching. And also, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Again, as a new channel, that helps us know what type of content you want to see. Yep. All right, here we go. Jumping into episode 4. History of Violence. So when we left off on the previous episode, Christina and Tic were kind of going back and forth. He went there to kill her. And basically she was like, this is what I'm here for. I want these pages, blah, 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 blah. But you need to be more careful about how you go around talking to people, or especially white people, because you just can't go around threatening and killing white women.
Yeah.
And I was like,
but that signaled to Tic, and I think now seeing this episode, it was a little bit of a signal or just like Christina egging Tic on to be like, you know, you gonna do this for me, and I know what I need to tell you to get you to do this for me. So basically at the end of that episode, I felt like Tic was like, all right, game on, I'll play your game. But I think a lot of this episode that we watched here recently, episode 4, is, you know, a lot of Tic again trying to play that game, but we have a lot more Montrose in this episode, who's more like, stop playing this woman's game, like stop doing it, you know. But we'll jump into that as we jump into the episode. But we actually start off the episode with Montrose in his apartment, and, you know, he's drinking and he's, you know, thinking about George, and, you know, George's last words in terms of, you need to protect Tic and things like that. We see that he has the bylaws book of the Order of the Ancient Dawn. He actually reads. We're seeing that he reads the book, and I don't think at this point, you know, in the story, he hasn't really told anybody else that he has this book and that he's read it. But you see when he first opens the book, he has that quote in the very beginning. Adam named, Eve fucked, God brought forth monsters, monsters devoured, God smites Eve. And that actually comes back to a point later on the episode where he has to use that information. But after he sees that information, he actually like burns the book. He, you know, lights a trash can on fire, wastes some good alcohol trying to light it on fire, puts the book in, and it burns. And you can, I think there were some words, I think you hear some words from George before he burns the book. Let me see if I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, words from George is, "You might be all Tic has left." He throws the book in the trash can to Bird, and then you see him go, "I was like Tulsa."
You're right.
You know, which goes back to where George and Montrose grew up, Tulsa, where, you know,
the massacre.
Yeah, the massacre happened. Next thing we see is Christina driving. She be driving that Bentley. She was like, swerving down traffic, didn't care.
And let me just say this, the way they've been incorporating music, so this one was Rihanna, "Bitch Better Have My Money," and I'm like, all right, y'all again jumping decades, but it's fitting for me.
Yeah, and when I thought, like, I actually wrote that down, like when she's driving and this song is playing, this song is playing, it's like, I call the shots. Yep. And I was like, that is exactly what Christina is doing. Yep. She's manipulating everybody in Tic's family to do what she, Tic's family and friends to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
So this next part cracked me up because it took Christina down a peg.
Yeah.
She arrives at Letty's house and she's walking in like she owns the freaking world. And Letty's like, "What the freak are you doing at my house?" And she's like, "Nice house." And she tries to walk in and she gets blocked.
Yeah, basically the spell from the last episode.
The Voodoo Priestess.
It's still active. The red blood X is still active on the door and she can't enter it. And it was almost like Christina was like, "Ooh, okay, you're trying to come up with some tricks of your own.
I see you. Who helped you get rid of Hiram?" You know, asking her all these questions. So Letty like, all right, I see you doing something different from these other men. Let me talk to you. But you can see actually during this conversation that, you know, Letty is like, "I don't want nothing to do with you. You know, I got killed, you know, revived again, you know, I don't want anything else to do with you." And Christina's like, "You need to watch yourself.
Right.
You letting these men make decisions for you and about how your life is going to be lived, but you need to be worrying about that yourself, because if you don't, they're going to get you killed again."
Yeah.
Which actually is a big thing, I think, that resonates with Letty all throughout this episode, because you can see that all throughout this episode, she actually takes steps to be like, "Tic, Montrose, y'all ain't gonna tell me what to do. I'm gonna get it done and I'm gonna do it myself."
Right.
You know.
And I thought that was really so here's my thing with Christina about that character that I can respect. She doesn't lie.
She doesn't.
She doesn't lie, and she's not hiding any ulterior motives. Everything she's doing and everything she's after is right there on the forefront.
And she tells them, she's like, "This is what I want. This is what I'm trying to do." And them taking steps trying to prevent that is only helping her to get what she wants. So,
she's playing chess at this point.
Yeah.
She, not even just at this point, I think ever since Montrose was kidnapped and taken to Artem, this has all been a part of like a plan. A subplot that she's had, because she knew she was going to take over. Yeah, she knew, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but she knew what she needed to do to get her father out the way. And
so
not
she
for
could take
nothing.
over.
Yeah, I'm arguing here, she's probably the most powerful in their whole little group, you know, but because she's a woman, they're not seeing her for what she is.
They kind of dismiss her in a way where she's like, "Oh, she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You know, we don't have to worry about her." But that's the one you do have to worry about.
If y'all would have put some respect on her name,
she would have probably helped y'all more than
y'all would have been alive still. Y'all wouldn't be in this situation.
They would probably be like dominating the world at this point if they would have listened to Christina. But anyways, you know, Christina's having this conversation with Letty, and she lets Letty know that, "I'm looking for Hiram's orrery." And I'm not really sure if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, it's orrery. I never could say that word.
But she's, you know, saying, you know, "Hey, this is what I want. You know, have you seen it?" Letty's like, "No, I haven't seen it. We know that, you know, Hippo's got it. Hippolyta." I'm sorry. I say Hippo because that's how I like hyphenate her name in my notes. But we know Hippolyta's got it. And then we actually jumped to Hippolyta back at the, I guess it was like the bookstore basically that her and George own, and that they published that travel guide for Negro travel guide book. But you see, she's on the phone with her dad trying to figure out what solar system does this orrery like? What is it representing?
Because remember when we did the last breakdown, I was like, "There's too many planets
there's two
in
suns.
that." I was like, that's way too many planets happening. I was like, are they moons? What is it? Come to find out, there's two suns. And she's discussing with her dad, like, is it possible, like, that there could be two suns? And her dad's like, nah.
Yeah, like there was. I think they go into the conversation where there was this system where the two suns eclipsed themselves.
Yeah.
But Hippolyta looking at this orrery, she's like, no, this ain't it, because you can see the two suns are clearly, going around this bigger planet.
Which I really enjoyed seeing this part because, again, we've all kind of know on another level that she's been interested in astronomy and astrology and stuff like that. But to see her like going into detail and her face just lighting up discussing it was just freaking amazing to me, which we get to see again later in the episode.
And I think we learned a little bit more about, because she's on the phone with her father talking about this. Now I think we actually learned in the no, I'll take that back. That's a different character. Let me roll back. But she's on the phone with her father trying to figure everything out, figure out what's going on with this orrery, and she actually ends up talking to a friend who comes by and basically tells her, like, okay, I know you can't figure this out now, but just remember, every
lock has a key.
Every locked door has its key. So basically, we already know that this orrery is a key. Christina's already said this is the key to getting not Hiram's, but Hiram's, Hiram Epstein's pages from the Book of Adam. So basically, this is like, okay, Hippolyta's got to figure this out. But,
which, again, this is another theme that comes through on the episode. Every lock has its key, because it comes up multiple times within the episode, and we'll point them out once we get to those points. But
next scene jumps to, and this, man, Letty is one of the best characters on this show, because I forgot what song they play, but it's like, as soon as you hear like get 'em, you see Letty march into the library. She's trying to find Tic, because she's like, Christina came by my house, I know that she paid for the house, that's where the money came from. I know that and your behind didn't tell me. So she marches into this library and gets angry at Tic and is like, how come you are not telling me things? And I think this is going back to Montrose kind of a little bit, because we know Montrose knows more than he knows as well, but again, they're deciding to keep each other in the dark about the things they know, which is kind of,
it's hindering them. Because if you think about it, Letty's the only one that's been forthright with what she knows, but those two just keeping it to themselves, thinking that they're protecting
each other. But it's really not. It's really kind of hindering them and preventing them from actually doing what they need to do, which in my opinion is
right.
They should just stop doing stuff. But she's obviously angry at Tic and is like, Tic actually tells her, like, this is Christina basically all along. Christina, I tried to kill her, but I couldn't pull the trigger because she's had this invulnerability spell. And she's like, and Letty's like, well, wait, does that mean Samuel's still alive? And he's like, no. Christina actually told Tic in the last episode that he had to remove that spell in order to do that ritual, which again goes back to Christina. This is her plan all along. She already knew, that this had to be done. She knew how to kill Samuel and get rid of the rest of the people in her lodge.
Right. And let's point out also, Tic was planning to kill Christina and then leave. Which,
and that's another thing that Letty gets mad at, because she sees his bags over by where he's sitting at, and he was like, you were gonna kill her and just leave.
Right.
Like, really? This is what we do? But Tic has decided that he's not leaving until he stops Christina. He wants to learn, he wants to find these pages and learn a spell that's going to help them get rid of Christina forever, which again, just don't do anything. Like, stop.
And let me point out, the MVP of this scene was the little boy kept saying, shh. I was like, you finna get a, oh. Like, you finna get a whooping. Look, I was
I feel his energy though when he finally was like, oh, I can't stand him.
The grown folks, boy.
I am trying to figure out. I'm trying to read Green Eggs and Ham, and y'all just talking about some other wizards and wizardry stuff. Letty actually tells Tic at this point that, Christina's looking for the orrery and she doesn't know where it is. And Tic at this point is just like, I don't need nobody's help. I don't need your help. I don't need Montrose's help. Because Letty is like, why don't you just ask your daddy? Because you know he already been in here and been in these same books, and he already knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But Tic's like, I don't need anybody. I don't want y'all to get involved. I want to protect y'all. And I'm just like, why?
Dude.
They ain't nothing to protect them from.
Right.
You know, they already know pretty much the story. So stop keeping secrets from each other.
Right.
You know. But at this point, I think Letty actually leaves, and Tic is like, I think Tic gets frustrated and actually starts looking at who's checked out the books he had before, and all of them were pretty much Montrose Freeman.
Yeah.
So he finally gives in, and we see the next scene where they go to the bar where his dad usually goes to. Mm-hmm. And he walks in and Letty already there. So again, this goes back to how Christina was like, stop letting them make decisions for you and do what you got to do. So she was like, forget Tic, I'm going to go to Montrose myself, you know. And when Tic finds them, you know, they're together, already talking about, you know, you know, what they need to do. Montrose, Montrose is giving him this speech basically saying like, y'all need to stop. Like, y'all don't know what y'all are getting. He knows what they're getting into, basically. He's already read the bylaws for the Order of the Ancient Dawn. Yeah. But he's, again, not telling them. And he's like, y'all are, you know, we already got one lodge, you know, looking for us. You want, you know, another 34 looking for us. And they're like, how you know it's 34 lodges? And we were like, just because, you know. And I actually love Michael K. Williams in this episode. He does a lot of things where I'm just like, what?
You know what? And with him, he's a really good, I've always liked him as an actor. He was in this other show called Hap and Leonard. It was him and James Purefoy. If you've ever, it's a great watch as well. It's kind of along the same lines, except less supernatural, but definitely a good view. But yeah, he's an amazing actor, and I really enjoy him. Every time I see him, I really enjoy him.
How could you not love Omar? Omar coming, Omar. But anyways, basically, Montrose is like, you know what, y'all two is a perfect couple, Letty and Tic, because you know y'all foolish and crazy, and that goes well together. Y'all trying to pioneer together. Y'all trying to do this on your own together.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And I think he says, and I meant to look this up, but he's basically like, he says this line, we are the Reds in this fight, outnumbered and outgunned. I meant to look up basically more meaning into that. Did you happen to catch that line?
The Reds, so it's the British?
Yeah. I figured that much, but I was like, I don't know. Well, I guess that's pretty
I mean, it makes sense. They're outnumbered. There's a lot of things working against them. Yeah. At this point, then are actually working with them, but a lot of it, again, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that's working against you is y'all.
Y'all, yeah.
It's you guys.
Yeah.
Just being stubborn.
And Montrose, again, in this episode, to be honest with you, I'm fully with Montrose a majority of this episode, because he's like, nobody knows anything other than what Christina has told you. So y'all are going off this information that she has told you, not knowing what her grand plan is. Like, y'all just stop doing what she tells you to do, or what she says you should be doing, and just forget about it, you know?
But at the same time, here's the other part that I see, because right now, with this magic, it's a power struggle. And for people who don't, or feel like they don't have any power, I could see why this would be alluring, to where, okay, we can knock this chick out, but then we'll have this on our side and maybe change our lives for the better. I can see that part, but it still is like, you guys don't know enough about what you're dealing with here to even make that assumption. So I guess it's just more so of, let me get the power and I deal with everything else later.
But you know, it goes back to that old saying, doing nothing at all is basically the best solution to the problem. But you actually see in this episode a little bit how Montrose is like going back and forth with Letty and Tic, and he's yelling at them, you know, doing his, great, same old Montrose. And he's basically, you can see that he's trying to do his best to protect them, but he's doing it in the way that he's always done in the past. Yeah. Being the same old Montrose, getting angry, yelling at him, hitting the table, and that's what actually I think spurns, Letty and Tic on more, that they want to get this done.
Because at the end of the day, they're gonna, and this is how I felt, they're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I was going to go back to, because Montrose is like, at this point, they're going to do it anyways, so I might as well be with them. And I think I don't know if this is what he does throughout the episode, but for me this was the point where he was like, I'm gonna go with them and I'm gonna mess this up for them so they can't get what they need. Because again, he wants them to do nothing at all. So he's like, if I'm with them and if I can discourage them or mess them up in somehow, that'll prevent them from doing this stupid stuff.
I kind of see that, but then again, I kind of didn't. Because I saw little parts in, let's just call it the adventure, where his face was just as illuminated as everybody else's.
Yeah, I did see that.
So it's almost like you said, he has no plans of letting this really move forward the way they want it to, but he's taking joy in the fact that he's smart and he's figuring this stuff out. And, you know, so I mean. So
again, I think, I don't know.
At the end of the day, they were going to do it anyway. He needs to be there because with or without him, they're going to go on this, and I keep saying adventure because that's what it is, but it's almost like, at least if he's there, they're better off. Yeah. Because if you think about it, there's certain stuff they wouldn't have got past if it hadn't been for him. It was a certain point
where he was like, you know, let me go ahead and do this with them because if they go without me, they won't get themselves killed. But at his ultimate goal at the end is like, I'm gonna do what I have to do to mess it. I'm gonna know what's going on, but they ain't gonna know what's going on. So I'm gonna mess that up for it. Next scene, we actually see Christina outside playing hide and seek with little kids,
which was really weird. Was that not weird to you?
I thought it was really weird. I took it as, because you know, when the boy came and was like, you're supposed to, don't you know how this game is played? And she's like, no, I've never, you know, this is my first time playing. She has never had to, I think at this point, I felt like she has.
Not a normal childhood.
Yeah, not a normal childhood. But she's never had to, I feel like with the lodge, she was able to play her games and do what she did to have, you know, get what she needed. But at this point, you know, Tic and Letty and Montrose being a little bit smarter than the average, she's never had to play as many games as she has with them. So she's basically saying, I thought it was like a representation.
Yeah,
saying,
I can see that.
This is my first time having to play a game to get what I want, but you know, I'm up for it. Let's go. So we see like couple of policemen come up and take her to Captain Lancaster, which we learned about in episode 3.
Yeah.
And
that guy.
Yeah, she walks in like, I love how she walks in like she owns the place, like, this is mine, this will be mine, like, this will be mine. She's like, she's like, hey, I came by to see Hiram, you know, surprised to see that there was some, you know, Negroes living in his house, but just came to get his orrery and everything. And Lancaster's like, you ain't a part of this lot. You're not a part of this. Like, I don't remember you being like initiated into this organization. And she's like, well, I don't remember you being initiated into this organization.
Which again is like, homie, you making a mistake. That's not the one you want to play that game with. So you can basically don't like each other. Her and Captain Lancaster don't like each other. You know, and Captain Lancaster's got that same mindset as the rest of the Sons of Adam, where it's just like, you're a woman. You're not a part of this. Stay where you need to be at. You know, down at the bottom. What was happening? So there was a part where she looked through the blinds.
She did.
What was going on in there?
Because I'm not really sure. I think we'll learn more about that in the next episode. But yeah, there was a part where she looked through the blinds and somebody was moaning back there, but we don't know exactly who.
So that was weird. That was just kind of like, okay, I want to know.
Yeah, I think we'll find out more in the next episode. They keep leaving these little breadcrumbs in previous episodes where we can link to next. But we jump to, Tic, Letty packing up Woody.
That had to be the best scene for me.
And again, this goes back to what Montrose was saying, foolish and crazy. They both stubborn. They like pulling things out. Like, this is not how you pack. Which I do that with my husband all the time.
Everybody's done that. So it's like they're fighting about something, but that's not the thing that they're fighting about. They're fighting over this struggle that they're having between keeping each other informed. But it's being manifested with, you can't pack the trunk right. Like,
you can't do nothing right. Get this out of here. Get this out of here.
I remember literally having a fight with somebody because it was like, you don't fold towels that way. That's not how you fold them. If you fold them that way, you can't fit as many in the shelf. You have to fold them and roll them over, then put them in. No, that's not how it is. I don't know who taught you to do that joke.
Right, right,
You talking about my mama now? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So again, you're fighting about towels,
Right.
but it's like something like even bigger going on, which again, everybody has done that.
Right. But it's literally at this point, will y'all just kiss again?
Right. With y'all stuff. Because literally this whole episode until the end, they acted like nothing, they hadn't been together before. This was
Right.
their, you know, they were still friends. But so funny because the next thing we see is Michael K. Williams walking up and he's like, this ain't my fault. which I can remember from being a child.
Right.
Like when we have been like fighting or something and something broke, you know, I would run to mom and be like, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything. I didn't break anything. So to see that in this episode was so hilarious because I was like,
like what's gonna happen?
And we see Hippolyta come up with D, and they're like, oh yeah, this museum's gonna be great. Because I'm sorry, I don't think we touched on that. Back in the bar, you know, Montrose, when he finally gives up, is like, I'm coming with you. He's like, you know, do you know any family or know anybody in Boston? So they're traveling to Boston to go to this museum to, you know, find out.
That's where they think the pages are.
So like when Hippolyta finds out about this, because they got to take Woody to get there, the car to get there. So Montrose of course has to ask Hippolyta, and she's like, we going with you. And
which I was like,
it goes back to them not telling her stuff because she was like, y'all ain't gonna do this to me no more. Like, y'all are not telling me something. I know you want to go on this trip to do something. You just don't want to tell me is. You know what? Matter of fact,
you can't use my car unless I come with you.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with you.
Oh my God, that crap was hilarious. But then the times too. Here come old blackhead coming around the corner.
His name is Seymour.
Talking about I need a ride to Philly, and I figure I'd just ride with y'all instead of paying like for a ticket all the way there. And everybody's looking like
and Montrose is like, I didn't invite you.
Hippolyta's like, more the merrier. George always said this car could fit all the south side of Chicago. I was like, yo, man.
If y'all just don't tell each other what is going on so this crap can be cut out, this is ridiculous.
But have you ever tried, so you know how when you're trying to do something like an adult and then like the kids, nieces and nephews like, I want to go, and you be like,
no,
go sit down
here.
Somewhere. That's what that felt like to me.
Yeah, basically. Now Seymour is actually that guy the taller guy, is a guy who worked at the bar where Montrose usually is at, basically. We find out a little bit more about him in the episode.
But wait, I like how Letty put him in his place.
She did, and we'll talk about that. We will talk about that. But the next scene, we actually go to Ruby, Letty's sister, and she goes to that department store where she says she wants to apply to, and she actually sees another colored girl working in there. And when she sees that, she actually kind of gets discouraged, and she's like, this ain't going to happen for me. So here, I didn't know, did Christina do that? Just so she would have would have some place to go to talk about it, or she could intervene in Ruby's life.
I'm gonna say yes.
I think so because when she asked that and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but when she asked the colored girl like, how long have you been working here? She was like, oh, this is my first day. I just kind of applied on a whim. I was like, Christina did that stuff. Yeah,
because she's orchestrated so much, and like it or not, I don't think anybody else has realized it yet. Ruby, you're a part of this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hippolyta, you're a part of this. Basically, everyone who has come on screen since this show has started, you guys are a part of this, whether you know it or not.
She already knows. Christina already knows who she needs to keep in her little circle, her little game to get what she wants.
Yeah.
But again, it's them not telling each other stuff, and that's what Christina is basically banking on at this point. That y'all are not communicating with each other.
Yeah.
So she can get what she wants.
Because if Letty would have told Ruby, this chick bought the house. This is where the money came from.
There's a ghost in here.
Because she still doesn't even know that.
Yeah.
So
like we expelled him the other day. This money didn't come from mom, which would really actually kind of repair their relate. Well, kind of sort of. Letty still lied to Ruby, but anyways, but it might make things a little bit better. But next scene we jump to the Boston Museum. They're walking in and Hippolyta and Dee actually run off to an exhibit, Light of the Universe exhibit, where it's, all about astrology. We can see that Dee, is taking, on Hippolyta, her love of astrology. So they go to see a comet within that exhibit. But before we get there, you know, Seymour tries to hit on Letty again, and Letty calls him out.
Talk about,
like, yeah,
I'm a tree. What did he say?
He
Some
was
stuff like
they call me tree. Yeah, because what did he say? Something about because when it comes to legs, I got tree.
Yeah,
yeah. And he was like, oh, shouldn't I? Letty was like, shouldn't I already know that since we had sex back to high school? And I was like, oh,
his face stuck, face stuck, which was funny. And it comes back a little bit later. Like, I'm like, why did you think he was not going to tell her
right.
that?
Why did you come along?
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. I didn't write this in linear order, but I think after that we jumped to Hippolyta and Dee in the Light of the Universe exhibit, and Hippolyta is telling Dee all about how she actually named one of the comets. She named it Harry's Chariot. Which Hera is the goddess of women, marriage, family, and childbirth in ancient Greek. But she's like basically saying like, I didn't get the credit for naming this comet because they didn't want a colored girl, being the face of the campaign,
which really sucks when you think about it, because it's just kind of like, you guys kind of took her. This was a big deal for her.
Yeah, this was her idea. So well, I mean, it's not anything different.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, but you just have to think about. I know for me, like the level of sympathy I felt in that moment. It was like, that sucks.
But it kind of made it a little bit better because Dee was like, this is my mama. She named hers Chariot. She named it, and this is hers. And I was like, you go ahead.
You hear all the kids like,
yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was so cute between the two. Nice little moment between those two.
Mother and daughter, yeah.
You go back to what is it? I think this might be Tic and Seymour, and Tic's all mad, or Seymour's all mad at Tic because he told about what he said about Letty, and then they go into. And I don't know if you want to talk more about this, but he goes into the spiel, and I thought at the moment that Seymour was saying this because he was mad at Tic. But he goes into this spiel about, his Montrose being at the bar a lot with the bartender who we know is actually gay.
Gay, yeah.
And he references to the fact that, Montrose might be gay.
Yeah. That was some hater shit.
I thought it was.
That was some hater. That was him
after he said it, I was like, bro, like, come on.
That was him retaliating, but at the same time, it doesn't mean there's not some truth to it. So I'll kind of go back to a previous episode where I kind of feel like I clocked that a little bit, but I couldn't say for sure. But I feel like he was just planting the seed of doubt just to kind of get in his head, because immediately after that happens, Montrose sees the guy that's letting them get into the museum or whatever, and it automatically puts some doubt in Tic's mind, like, okay, like, okay,
what is going on?
Like how do you know him?
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, I personally don't feel it was neither here or there at this point. I feel like it was just some hater ass shit he was doing. But it came back up for me later in the episode, and we'll get there.
Okay. But Tic, Letty, and Montrose are like in the Titus Braithwaite wing of this museum, because at first Tic is like, where are we? I don't know where we're gonna look. We'll start where Titus start doing the renovations, and Letty was like, why don't we just look in the part of the museum that's named after him, idiot? Right.
And you guys, this is where this really picked up for me, because I'm like, this is about to be an Indiana Jones adventure. Right. Like, literally, if you've ever watched The Last Crusade, how it starts in the library/museum there, this is the jump off point for this
Pretty much. The Last Crusade is this last part of this episode most resembled to me.
Yeah.
But they're in the Titus Braithwaite section of the museum, and you hear the moderator say there are many artifacts from the famed explorer Titus Braithwaite was given, and I put in my when she said given, I put stolen in exchange for teaching the savage tribes the ways of civilized man. And to me, I was like, you know what? Like, to me, this says the reverse. Like, they were probably more civilized than Titus Braithwaite.
Yeah.
He came in, probably destroyed their tribes, destroyed their families, and we actually learned a little bit more about that in the episode. But I was like, these tribes, savages, as you say, were probably more civilized.
advanced. And remember, he made his living in shipping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as he's going through these civilizations, he's acquiring slaves, basically.
Shipping things back to the U.S.
Yeah.
But let's see here. We jump to, before they go on to this little excursion in the museum or adventure, we actually cut back to Christina driving that Bentley down the road again. She parks at a house and she walks up to the front door. Not even like 2 seconds later, here come William emerges.
What did I say?
Yeah. So
what
at
did
this
I
point,
say?
I actually, when I saw this, I actually remember texting you and be like, "All right, you know, Christina and William, the same person."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that kept bothering me. It was like I said in the previous breakdown we did. I was like, we never see them together at the same time. And what prompted that was when you asked, well, is he still alive? Like, where is he or whatever? And I was like, wait a minute, is he? Well, wait a minute. You never see them in the same place at the same time. Well, wait a minute. She's got this weird gender thing because she's a woman not being able to. So what if she's created another persona to be able to operate in this world without being clocked or whatever? Because if I remember correctly, nobody else ever saw William. William only made himself present to Letty, Tic, and
George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, there's something here. And I remembered that episode, that season of Buffy with Ben and Gloria. I was like, this is her. I was like, William is Christina. And when that scene happened, I might pop it into this video because what we do, guys, sometimes I tape myself while I'm watching it so I don't have to write down all my notes. But like, as soon as that shit happened, I was like,
yeah, it was like immediate where I was like, okay, yeah, I believe it now.
And we'll come back to that a little bit later because I think that's very significant to this storyline. So.
Yeah. So we actually see William come out of the house now, and he actually comes up to a car that Captain Lancaster is basically having Christina follow throughout the city or the town because, you know, he wants to know what she's up to, obviously. Right. But, you know, William emerges from the house, comes over to those police officers or people who are following Christina and, like, basically beats them down. Yeah. And it's like, Miss Braithwaite doesn't appreciate y'all, you know, following her around. So go ahead, you know, back on up.
Right.
So we jump back to the museum, and it's nighttime now. Tic, Leti, and Montrose have come back to the museum. The security guard has let them in, and they're trying to find this door to this vault. Right. Immediately, Montrose realizes, like, hey, you guys need to turn on flashlights. There's something that the moon is about to show us, which I thought this was a little... I don't know. When I first saw it, because when the moon lights up, it shines on this part of the statue, which shines on the part of a map that Titus had, and then shines on a part of a crocodile or alligator's tooth, where that's the key to opening the vault. Letty actually moves the tooth, and the vault opens up. So I was like, every night this happened, and nobody has noticed this yet. I was like,
well, I mean, if you think about it, nobody's really in there.
I know. And if nobody's in there, yeah, but like nobody has ever been in that museum after hours ever.
I mean, maybe if you don't know what you're looking at, you can't really. It reminded me of literally Tomb Raider. It reminded me of a Tomb Raider puzzle. It also reminded me of
Indiana Jones still.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. Even Resident Evil, because there's a lot of puzzles like that. So I was all in for it. I was like, okay, the moonshine there. Yeah. It's supposed to hit something. What is it supposed to hit? Oh, there's this. So I was just like, I was giddy.
Yeah. But we actually, when Letty moves the tooth and the vault opens up, you can actually hear him say, this is some Journey to this Another Earth type stuff. Like, what's going on? Because this is, like, again, the first time he's ever experienced anything like this. It's basically this whole world is still opening up to them. So he actually, there's a rope where he lowers himself down into this vault, and he reads a warning about the tide rising on the top of the vault, which comes back later on in the episode. So he's trying to figure out, he gets down there, there's 3 tunnels, and he's trying to figure out which tunnel to go to. He sees something that's basically on the ground of this vault that kind of gives them a way of, you know, which way to go. Right. He uses Letty, because Tic is like, I need Titus's map to figure out where to go. And Letty's like, flashlight. And Montrose is like, wait! I told him I'd leave it how we came. And she like busts this glass. And I'm just like, go ahead, Letty, do
Right.
what you gotta do. But, you know, they get this map and Letty throws it down and she's like, I'm coming down.
Right.
And Tic is like, wait, let me figure out. And by the time he's like at figure out, she's already halfway down the ladder or the rope. And then here comes Montrose, which is the funniest thing. Because he's like, the whole way down, he's like, oh, shit.
Right.
So,
this is where my level of anxiety kind of kicked in. I was like, wait, y'all don't know how y'all gonna get out of this.
Right. I was like, yeah, you know, if you're having trouble climbing down this rope,
how
you're not gonna be able to get back up. So I was like, oh, here they go jumping in first.
So I guess I could say, like, I'm not that brave because I was like, somebody needs to stay up there unless, like, in case that's the way we need to come out.
That would be you?
Right.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep watch. Y'all just go ahead, do what you gotta do. But they have this conversation about, I guess, Titus raided Guyana, but Letty tells Montrose that per the brochure, the Caribbean was the last trip that Titus made. And he says the first museum renovations that were done after he returned was after he returned from the Caribbean.
Right.
And Montrose is like, because he thought he knew at this point which way to go,
right.
but Letty's telling him something new. Again, if y'all just work together,
y'all
would be fine. Because he's like, okay, so basically when did that happen? You know, and he's like, well, 1810. Letty's like 1810, and Montrose is like, the sons of Adam were established 3 years after that. And right there I paused it because Letty looked at him like, how do you know that? How do you know that? And so again, them not sharing information with each other. So they go through, I guess, this tunnel, the North Tunnel I wrote down. At this point, Tic is like, wait, maybe we should think about this some more. But again, you know, Montrose and Letty, they're heading head first into this tunnel.
Yeah.
But again, there's still a piece of information that Tic, again, has not told Letty and Montrose about the high tide.
Yeah.
Because he's like, wait, maybe we should figure this out. And they're like, no, we got to go. But like, if you would have been like, hey, we got to make sure we get this right. Because, you know, there's a warning about high tide and yada yada. We'll find out more about that in the episode. But
and
again,
are we just like, this is the other part. I was like, are you guys just forgetting about this being booby trapped?
Yeah.
Like,
y'all just walk. For real, the way Letty walked into the tunnel, I was like, oh, wait a minute. You need to be like tiptoeing and like making sure the ground's solid first before you walk in there.
Pressing on stone buttons and stuff and arrows flying out. Look.
No, that doesn't happen. So we cut back to Ruby. She's at the bar right now, performing. She's all, you know, depressed and miserable about, you know, not being able to get that job at the department store. And I love her at the end because, you know, after she gets done with her song, people are like, yeah. She's like, well, fuck you too. I was like, oh, Ruby, come on now.
I felt bad for her.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's at the bar where she actually meets William. William's there, and he's like asking her all the kind of, oh, what happened?
Right.
Oh, well, maybe you should try to apply anyways.
Yeah.
And, and what if I told you I could change your life?
Exactly. And again,
yeah,
this comes back to Christina covering all of her bases again. Because in that moment, I'm like, I see you. Yeah. Like, I see you. I see what you're doing.
And I think it has to do with the Ori thing. I think when she found out that Letty knew what she was up to, she was like, there's another way in this house. Yeah. There's another way into this Ori. So let me hit up Ruby. Let me, you know, come be her knight in shining armor when she needs somebody, and let me have her find.
Right.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the fact that Ruby was pushing back, though. She was like,
at first she was, but then that alcohol took over.
Well, she needed some comforting, you know.
You better stop looking at me in that way. I was like, no, Ruby, no.
You think you the first white boy that wanted to say some stuff, want to lay with me and stuff. And, you know, of course, William's playing it all cool and stuff. But at the end of the day, we know that she's, that's not appropriate. William is priming Ruby to get her into this full swing, basically.
Yeah. We actually see where they actually go back to the house where Christina and William are staying at, and we actually see when they pull off William's shirt, he's got this, like, I don't know, I couldn't really tell. Like,
it was like
it looked like a goat.
Yeah, it was like a goat with the horns,
posted,
which is a symbol of something. But then it also kind of let me know. I feel like this is a part of, like, either it's a part of the incantation that's happening, or it could be something else. I don't. So there's where my theory kind of like wavered again. Okay, now wait a minute, what's happening? Because I'm like, if y'all finna bone, like.
To me though, if I would have took off a man's shirt right before that little thing, I'd be like, oh, you into something that I don't need to be in. You know what? Let me go. Let me go home. Yeah, I don't need this.
So that's kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. But again, it comes back later. Because at the end of the day, I was like, it still could be the case. We just need to. I have to. So I'm saying this like I'm a part of this story. I have to figure out like how it's happening. I have to figure out what exactly is the method that she's using, if this is the case, to make this happen. So sorry, we'll go into it later.
So we jump back to Letty, Tic, and Montrose in these tunnels. They're walking through these tunnels, and they come upon this really long, just wooden board.
Oh my gosh!
And right off the bat, they're like, "Letty, you going?"
Basically.
And that makes sense because she's the only one that they would be able to pull up if she did fall.
If she fell.
But you can see Letty's already nervous, and Tic is
tying
Tic is tying this knot. She like, this knot gonna hold. And Montrose comes in with this story about this knot is a knot that I taught him, that my daddy taught him, and that his daddy taught before him because he was a slave and he was responsible for making sure the horses didn't run away. And on Juneteenth he walked away as a free man with no marks on him. And so that gives Letty the courage to be like, all right, I can do this. So she starts walking out on this plank, and as like Tic is like watching her go through, he's like, freemen's weren't slaves. And Montrose goes, she out there, ain't she? And I start rolling.
I can't with y'all.
It was like the best part of this episode. She out there, ain't she?
I can't. I cannot.
So hilarious.
And again, here's another part where I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, like almost shot for shot, because
this actually, I wrote that down. I was like, this board is like some Indiana Jones type traps, because when she, Letty's walking on this board, she disappears through this fog, but she can see that there's something swinging through the air in this fog, and it's just like pendulum type of thing, where we would see in Indiana Jones. And so Tic has to come out there and help her out, get past that obstacle. But as he's out there, the board starts to disappear. And it's real slow at first. And Montrose is like, this board is disappearing. And so Tic has to come back to help Montrose. And Montrose has this bag. This is so hilarious. Montrose has this bag, and he throws Tic the bag at first. And like Tic like drops it, and that bag is gone. So he actually is like, oh, come on, Dad, you gotta jump. And he looks at he looks at Tic with the most serious face I've ever seen him. He goes, you better catch me, boy.
Yo, when that happened though, there was literally a point in this show where I was screaming and yelling back at the TV, because when that board started disappearing, I was like, oh shit, jump, y'all better hurry up.
So we see Montrose, he actually does jump, and he makes it to the other side of the board, but then at this point they have got to get going because this board is steadily disappearing. So they get to the part where they get past the pendulum. But then at the end of this board, there is a door that's locked, and they're trying to figure out how to get through it. And Letty figures out that you can push kind of things on the lock. It's like pictures of
like a
Adam, Eve, and monsters.
Yeah.
So they're trying to figure out the combination to open this door. And Montrose is like, oh, I know what this is. It's Adam. I wrote it down at the beginning. Adam named, and they press Adam. Eve fucked, they press Eve. God brought forth the monsters, they press monsters. Monsters devoured. God smites Eve, so then they press God, and this door opens. And so they're like, yes, yeah, like how any like African American person would be after this whole ordeal. Like we made it, and
Oh
like
my
Montrose
God.
is like, did you see that jump?
Right.
Jesse Owens ain't got shit on me. I was
So,
like, oh my God.
Again, it's coming back to, it's like, all right, now you guys are like working together. See how easy this is, but then also knowing that Montrose is like just seeing him light up.
Yeah.
Because he's knowing this stuff and he's getting everybody through this weird, elaborate obstacle course or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just fun.
It was a fun little I agree. It was a fun little section there. But as they're going through these tunnels, there's like water, and this water's rising, and Montrose is like, is this water getting higher? And Tic finally lets them know that, like, yep, it basically said something about the tide at the very beginning of the tunnel, and basically moonset is after moonset, the tide rises to full tide to 3 hours after moonset, and he was like, based on that, we got about like an hour left, I think, to find the vault. And they like, it's always something, they're wading through this water, and Tic is like all like trying to get through this tunnel as fast as he can because he knows this water's rising, but Montrose and Letty are having a hard time keeping up, and they're like, hey, could you wait, could you stop? And Montrose goes, is that what they teach in the army, to leave people behind? And this triggers Tic, and I know that there's something more behind this, because he goes back to him and he's like, no, I've never left a man behind, ever, and he's like, I can usually trust the people I have in the trenches. Now, when he says, I've never left a man behind, ever, you can see that he was really triggered by that. I think there's something that's still to come, and we'll learn more about that in terms of what happened to him in the army later on in the season. But you can tell that really triggered him when Montrose was like, do you leave people behind? He was like, no. But he also made the statement, he was like, I could trust the people I was, standing next to in the trenches. And, Montrose is like, what you mean by that? And they're like, how do you know all this stuff? How did you know how to open that door?
Right.
How did you know, like, when Hiram or Titus established the sons of Adam.
Right. And
he finally admits that, George gave him the bylaws of the Order of the Ancient Dawn, and he read them, and they're like, well, what did you do with them? He's like, I burned it. And they're like, what for? And he's like, this is foolish. And again, I'm just like, y'all just work together. Right. And they actually start arguing back and forth, and Letty's going ahead because she's mad at this point too. And then we see a body,
right?
And she's
not just anybody.
Though. It's the body of one of her missing neighbors.
That, if you remember on the last episode, were thrown down into this tunnel.
Yep. And so they keep on going, and they, come to this little box, 2 buttons on it. Tic, hits one of the buttons, and here come the elevator coming down. And at this point, I was like, y'all didn't have to go all the way to Boston for this,
But it was almost, I was kind of looking at their faces, waiting for them to realize that's Letty's elevator.
And that's basically what the ward, because remember in the last episode when the elevator went all the way down and you saw those things light up? That's what that warding was for. It was taking them down to that mysterious tunnel.
Let's call it for what it is. At this point, I feel like that's a portal. I feel like they're almost in an alternate dimension.
It could be, yeah.
So there's something having to either do with an alternate dimension, or, as we learned a little bit later, they kept talking about something being the key to time travel. So, and
we actually learned too, now that we've seen this elevator, that Hiram found Titus's vault. Yeah. And he was trying to get to that vault. So he basically, knew where he needed to go to get what he needed. But as they keep on going, they're continuing to argue with each other, because Tic is like, oh, this goes up to Letty's house. Y'all get in. This is getting too dangerous. And they're like, would you stop trying to protect us? Right. Montrose has been kidnapped. I died. Yeah. We don't need to be protected anymore. We need to get this stuff done. Right. We're figure out what's going on. Yeah. And stop. Yeah. Stop trying to. I don't need you to protect me. See. Yeah, Letty's basically like, Tic, you're not the center of the earth. This isn't just happening to you. Right. It's happening to all of us. And this goes back a little bit to, you know, what Christina told Letty earlier, to stop letting these men make decisions for you.
Right.
Do what you gotta do to make yourself good. Don't let them control your life, you know. So Tic, Letty like storms ahead because she mad, and you can see like she has that mentality that Christina's like, she's like, I gotta listen to Christina and do it because I can't trust them, because you can see she's struggling. She's like, basically at this point, probably toes can't even touch the bottom of this tunnel anymore. The water's so high, and you can see her struggling, but she's like, they ain't gonna continue to tell me what to do. I can do it all, but I can do this on my own, you know. But you know, Montrose and Tic at this point have this kind of like heart to heart conversation about, man, you better make sure your girl okay. Right. And you know, he's telling him like, you know, what I used to do is like when I argued with your mom, you know, I used to have this love song in my head that I would sing, and after I got done with the love song, then you can get back to the, you know, what you want, which is the loving. Which I kind of thought this was something for what Montrose and his and Tic's mom did, but also for Montrose and Tic too. I kind of related this to them because he says that's all the fussing is, in a way, a whole lot of loving. So basically, you know, in the past, Tic and Montrose have not had the greatest of relationships. They even, you know, had fights, you know, all out physical fights before. But I think it kind of seemed like Montrose was kind of saying, you know, I do all this because I fuss at you, you know, I get mad at you and I do all this because I love you, you know. But he says it in his Montrose type of way. He can't really just say, I love you. He just, you know, tells the story. Yeah. So they actually come to this lock of the vault. And we see that there's already an arm in this lock of the vault.
Literally, when I saw that, and you could see under the water, but I couldn't tell what it was. So I literally yelled out, "What the fuck is that?" What is that?
And I think one of them says, "Is that an arm already in there?" And you can actually tell because it's like a little striped black and white. And as soon as I saw that striped black and white, I was like, that's Hiram's arm. And I actually had to go back to the previous episode where they conjured his ghost, and he was actually missing an arm. Yeah. So Hiram had tried to get into that vault before. It's just because he didn't have Titus's blood. And it didn't let go.
I know, right?
I don't know if that's how he died. That's probably how he died.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, so they remove the arm from the lock, and Tic does something that I would never do. Yeah. He actually sticks his arm in the lock. I've watched too many Indiana Jones to know that I'm not sticking my hand in there. But he does, and I guess there's this big puncture that kind of gets his blood.
It was big too.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's going to come back later, because they actually did show a close-up of him taking it out and him like covering it up. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to have to do with something later. But eventually this,
like the door, like the locks on the door, his blood starts to come through.
Yeah, and they start unlocking.
Yeah.
But then there's something that falls down from the sky, and it's a ladder. So they walk up to this ladder, like into Goonies territory
this
basically.
Was straight up Goonies for me.
Yeah.
This was straight up Goonies for me. Just the way things were placed in it, I was just like, so awesome.
Yeah. Because when you walked around this room that they enter, it's like a whole bunch of, it looks like native people, and we learned that it's native Caribbean people.
Yeah.
Who have just been, they're like sitting in these positions where they're just like everyday positions. One standing up holding a baby, but they're skeletons, they're bones, they're dead. So Letty finds where one's up by a desk, and there's like a skeleton like holding onto some papers, just laying on the desk like this.
Now, wait a minute. Immediately when you saw that, did you not feel like, that's a trap?
I did.
Like something gonna happen.
I was like, they're going to have to try to figure out how to get these papers out of this woman's hand, because as soon as they touch it, something's going to happen. But they didn't think that.
Right.
They were just like, and as soon as they went for it, this bones like starts, this boned woman like starts to like,
just basically reanimate.
Reanimate. Flesh starts coming back onto her body. And it's this native woman,
right?
Who we actually see is hermaphrodite.
Yeah,
right?
Say it.
No, not that way.
Yeah, basically, it's a woman who has male genitalia.
Caribbean woman, yes.
Caribbean woman that has male genitalia. Before we jump into that, though, the transformation from her skeletal form just to her kind of like reanimating,
awesome.
That was completely awesome. But immediately when you see it, you're like, oh.
Yeah. It scared me a little bit, and I thought, I thought it was something that was going to happen like faster than it did.
Yeah.
It took. I love the way that they took a little bit longer to do the transformation. However, Tic, Montrose, and Letty, if I were them, y'all stood there way too long to let this transformation happen. I would have been gone as soon as she was like, I would have been like, I would have been out of there. Like Letty in the first episode, running to that car.
Right.
I was trapped back in high school all star. Like, yeah.
That was interesting, and it was funny because once she fully reanimated, she starts talking.
And Arawak.
Yeah. And Tic can understand her. They can understand each other, but Letty and Montrose have no idea what's going on. So they start engaging in this conversation regarding like, who are you? How did you get here? And all that stuff.
And again, I'm sorry, I just want to point out that language that they're speaking is an Arawak language, which is indigenous to people of South America and the Caribbean. So yeah, you're right. When she starts speaking this language, Tic is the only person that can understand her.
Yeah. So basically they're asking like, how did you get here and everything? And basically, long story short, Titus found her to read. Basically, he wanted her to translate the pages in the book because she knew what the symbols were.
Yeah.
And
her name is Yahima Mirakoti. And they explain that Titus came on a ship searching for people to read the Book of Adam. And Yahima knew the symbols from the cave knew the symbols in the book from the cave of Alamankundi. So I actually tried to look some of that up, but I think it might be made up.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a lot of time to do research on it, so I'll go back and do some more research on it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So long story short, she was there basically to read the book, and Titus kind of trapped her there because. Actually, do I remember why he trapped her there?
Basically what happened was she realized at first she said she had no reason to distrust Titus. However, she finally realized who he was, and she goes like, people are hungry, and when she realized who Titus was and that what he wanted, she refused to decipher the pages for him. And at that time, he told her that he would reunite her with her people, which he did, but he actually killed all of them. Yeah. So basically, she tells that same thing to Tic. She was like, I know you're not at fault for the things that your forefathers have done, meaning Titus, but I'm not going to help you decipher these pages because I don't really know your spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, they end up leaving because something triggered for the place to kind of implode.
The pages were actually still on the table. And so Montrose is like, okay, she won't help us. Let's go ahead and get these pages, get out of here. So when Montrose picks up the pages from the table, that's what triggers the meltdown. Yeah.
So they literally got to haul ass out of here because if not, they're going to drown.
Oh, I'm sorry. So they do, and they're back in this water, and they're running towards Letty's elevator, and they all pretty much get in the elevator. But Letty realizes that I don't know if this was on purpose. I kind of feel like it was on purpose, but Montrose doesn't have the pages anymore. They're floating out in the water, and Letty sees it, and she actually gets out the elevator and goes to get the pages, which again, coming back to Christina again, girl, you gotta do what you gotta do to take care of these, make sure you're to stop letting these men, So she basically MVP at this point, getting the pages.
Because all of that would have been for nothing, basically.
So Letty gets the pages, get back into the elevator. Tic and Letty have this moment in the elevator where they're just like, and it was just like, again, like a regular Indiana Jones type of move, because you know how at the end of all those movies they have the man, the man and the woman, and they're just like kissing because the adventure is over and everything. I thought that was pretty funny. But during this time, Yahima goes to say something, but all you hear is this loud screaming. And it basically is hurting, everybody's ears, and Tic actually punches Yahima out to, knock her out so she can stop screaming. Before we jump back to Tic, Montrose, and Letty, they do finally make it up the elevator, but before we go on with them, they jump back. We jump back to Hippolyta and Dee and Woody, and they in the car driving, and you can see at this point on Hippolyta's face, she is so fed up.
She is
just like, because Dee's like, how did they get back to Chicago without taking Woody? And Hippolyta's like,
Yeah.
She's like, I'm just so tired. Bull crap. And you see that Dee is actually drawing on the map, George's map that he would use to go on his trips. And she's Hippolyta realizes this. She's like, Dee, where'd you get this from? And she was like, it was in the glove compartment. And so she sees on the point where on the map where George recently had circled Devon County.
Yeah.
And you see Hippolyta
just do a U-turn.
Dee's like, what are you doing? And she's like, we're gonna find our answer. So she's basically heading back to Devon County, which I'm really worried about because there's nothing there anymore. Well, there's still that town, but the lodge is destroyed. So I don't know how they're going to
the monsters are probably still there though.
Probably too. I don't know how they're going to receive that town too. Is going to receive Hippolyta and Dee.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit worried about that. But we jump back to Montrose, Tic, and Letty. They're back at Letty's house. And, Tic is talking to Yahima, and he comes out to Montrose and says, yeah, she thinks you're right. She thinks that Titus put a spell on her where if she ever left the vault, that it would turn her into a siren.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't be able to speak about what she knows about the Book of Adam. And Tic is like, I think we need to teach her. And this was kind of tricky a little bit. Montrose did this in a little tricky way because he was like, what you did out there today, boy, your mama will be proud of you. And we go into this heartfelt moment of him, Tic kind of tears up a little bit because he finally is thinking that he's getting this recognition from his father and that love that he's been waiting for all this time. Tic is like to Montrose, we should start teaching Yahima English because it might be easier for her just to write down the Book of Adam instead of us trying to decipher it. And, Montrose is like, okay, yeah. All right, go ahead, get some sleep, boy. And so after Tic leaves, Montrose goes into Yahima's room, and next thing you know, Montrose slits Yahima's throat. Yeah. She's dead, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah. So here's my thing about that, which I have a couple of different theories, but here's the thing that really stands out to me because, again, you've got the Christina William dynamic here, and then you've got the Yahima dynamic here. Now, in some native, I don't want to say it's exclusively Native Americans, but in Native indigenous cultures, people like Yahima were called two-spirited. And they were actually celebrated on a level almost as godlike because they had female and male spirits. Which brings me back to Christina and William. I feel like that has something to do with being able to read that book. There's something there because I feel like that's two cases of male female spirits kind of inhabiting one body that it can't be a coincidence. Then also the dynamic with, because again we learned that Montrose was really cool with the bartender, the bar owner or whatever, and then what's his name, Seymour?
Seymour is the guy.
Kind of brought that up. I almost looked at that scene I kind of felt like maybe he was killing a part of himself or something. But then again, once you kind of explained your reasoning behind it, I'm leaning more towards that. But I'm really focused on this Christina William, this Yahima storyline here because it has to mean something.
Yeah.
There has to mean something with being two-spirited, how it relates to this magic. Because again, this whole thing is based off of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
So it's this has to be important somewhere.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out later on. But yeah, I was leaning towards more of, I go back to this feeling that Montrose is like, I'm going to go along with y'all on this venture, make sure y'all don't die, because I got to protect you. That's what George wanted me to do. But I'm going to also make sure that y'all don't get yourselves in more trouble than y'all need to be.
Yeah, I think he made a really big mistake.
Yeah.
I think that was a really big mistake. And who knows? Who's to say she really dies? I mean...
I guess we'll see. Yeah.
So this episode for me, and again, I keep trying to say, okay, which one is my favorite so far? I can't even say that because they're all so different.
They're so good.
They're so different and they're so good and they're so on their own as standalone episodes are amazing. But then when you think about the big picture story here, it's doing a really good job of weaving.
Yeah, I agree.
MVP for the episode, I'm kind of split with this one. It's gonna fall between Letty and Christina for me. Because I feel like both of them are really forces to be reckoned with. more so Letty, I feel like she's coming into her own again as a woman. Since this whole season has started, she's just kind of continued to elevate her name. Then also Christina, I feel like they're almost on like a parallel journey, I guess, if you want to say. Yeah. So she stands out to me. The only reason I'd be hesitant because I still don't know what this chick is up to. Yeah, I know like her end game.
Yeah, you know she wants the pages.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
But like how she's going about doing it is just so calculated, and I'm like, how is all of this playing together?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. My MVPs, and I'm kind of split as well. I'm gonna say Montrose and Letty. I want to say Montrose because he basically made the decision to make sure that nothing else was gonna happen to Tic and Letty. So I'm so glad he's just decided to participate, even if his end goal is to make sure that they don't do anything stupid. You can still tell that, you know, as he was going along in this adventure, he was, I don't want to say having fun, but I felt like he felt some type of emotion going through all this with his son. And also, you know, there are certain points in this episode where I felt like it just made me like, you know what, I love he made me laugh so hard. Yeah. Another thing, Letty is again, going back to what Christina told her, don't let anybody make decisions for you. You got to go out there and make that happen for yourself, which I can relate to because there are times where, you know, people have told me things in terms of, oh, let your man take care of that for you. Let your man take care of that for you. But there's some times where I'd be like, I can do this on my own. Like, I don't need nobody. So like when she was really out there like swimming, like, I don't need y'all to do anything. Like, I'll do this myself. You know, she was working harder than everybody else. I have done that before. I was like, I can do this on my own. I don't need nobody to help me out. I don't need nobody to protect me. So yeah.
Predictions for this one. I really do feel that Montrose made a mistake here. I really do feel that, and it kind of goes back to what we've been saying all along, there's not a real transmission of information. Everybody's not on the same page. I feel like there was probably a better way that he could have handled this, but again, he went off and did what he does. Yeah. Which I think is going to cause problems. I think it's going to, at the end of the day, they're not going to stop. Yeah. And the easiest thing you probably could have did is let that go forward and just gotten it over with, and y'all work as a team versus now. There's going to be conflict because they're going to know you did it. Yeah. Yeah. And now that's going to put them behind the 8-ball. And as we can see, Christina's been well ahead of the curve here. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, I don't feel like just because you guys or you're trying to sabotage your group's efforts, it's not going to stop her from getting what she wants. And we see that in the clip from the next episode because she's looped Ruby in. Yeah, to her plan. We've got Hippolyta going to Devon County. Yeah.
I think at one point in this season, they're all going to, and I think this relates back to the book a little bit because I've read a little bit of the book so far, but at some point, they're going to have to come back together. There's going to be a point where they're going to be like, well, she told me this, and you know, William told me this, and somebody told me this, where they're all going to realize that they're being played and that they need to start working together in order to, you know, get rid of Christina, William, you know, and the Order of the Ancient Dawn. Yeah. So.
We'll see, but we see William's got his hooks into Ruby. She's being introduced into magic. And again, the other thing that I'm just kind of wondering, with Christina and William, I'm like, what is going on? Is this a glamour? Like, is she really two-spirited? Like, what's happening here? Or is this just some kind of spell she's done to serve as a surrogate? Because again,
I think it's a spell.
What she's had to do as William, she can't do as Christina. Yeah. That's how I look at it. So who knows? We'll see. This was an excellent episode.
Yeah, again, I liked it.
Embodied everything that I enjoyed from the Indiana Jones series, Goonies, Tomb Raider. You know, all those elements played really well in.
I felt like at some point during this whole episode, like I would hear Sean Connery's voice come over and be like, "Indiana, let it go."
We got an indie look.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, that was exciting to me. Even like as we're going through this scenes, just kind of having that nostalgia in my head, but seeing these black characters take it out, I was like geeked, man. It was like it was so cool.
It's very like you said, very exciting to see. I think we actually tried before this video to try to come up with a movie where we've seen something similar to that Indiana Jones with African American people, and it was very hard to do. I don't think we thought of it.
We couldn't.
So I'm super excited that they were able to give us something like that in the 4th episode.
Yeah, another A+ episode for me.
Yeah.
All right, so what did you guys think? If you made it to the end of this breakdown, we're glad you stuck around, but definitely we want to hear from you if you had the opportunity to check out episode 4, which, mind you, was a surprise. It was kind of like a little treat for everybody who's been watching it, and I guess because of the holiday, this is why we got it early. But we'd like to hear from you. What did you pick out from the episode? What were some of the common themes that you saw stood out? Drop down in the comments and let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Yep. Awesome.
Until next time, again, we're your hosts. I'm Killer Cam.
And I'm Monique.
We'll see you on the next breakdown for Lovecraft Country.
Thanks, guys.